Beautiful. Flaky. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making cereal bars. Let's get started. Hello. Weather has turned hot and that makes me think about back to school. And back to school makes me think about early mornings that I wait to the last possible second to leave the house and rushing frantically. I always need something quick and easy to take with me because let's be honest, 5 a.m. is way too early for breakfast, 10 o'clock is about right. So when I could eat gluten, I loved the Nutri-Green cereal bars, and obviously that's not something I can eat anymore, and the gluten-free version is just, well, not great. So I had to come up with one on my own. So here's my version. We're gonna start with turning our oven to 350 to preheat, and then I'm going to get out my food processor, which is plugged in, and mix up my flour. So I'm starting with my flour blend. That video is also available if you haven't had a chance to watch that yet. And I'm going to put in my food processor 3/4 cup of my flour blend. And from what I remember of those original cereal bars, they had a heavier whole grain texture, and to emulate that, I'm using a combination of gluten-free oats, teff flour, and sorghum flour. Teff flour is the flavor similar to what we have in graham crackers. Sorghum helps us hold on to some moisture in our dough, and then as well as the oats plus the flavor there. So this is teff, and for the teff, I'm adding 1/2 cup. And then sorghum, I'm going to do 1/4 cup. I should just move these. Because I have this nice little shelf down here, I can just move these completely out of my way. My new table. All right, and my oats, I want 1.5 cups. And I'm using Bob's Red Mill certified gluten-free oats. 1.5. All right. I'm just gonna pulse that. I want to break up my oats so that there's some chunks, but not all chunks. So a little bit of oat flour. So that would be another option, is to use oat flour and mixed oats. That would speed up the process, I suppose. Do you see that oat pop out of there? All right, so if you want to take a peek in there, I still have mostly whole oat chunks, just a little bit blended. To this, I'm going to add some brown sugar, and my brown sugar, I need 1/2 cup. Oops. I'm just flinging things all over the place today. And I'm also gonna pulse that to mix in. Brown sugar everywhere. So lots of the glutinous versions of making your own cereal bars was kind of quite the process. And I like things simple. So I think that I've simplified this enough that it should be manageable for anyone. To my dry ingredients, I'm gonna add just 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I am using unsalted butter, and I have tried this recipe with unsalted butter and no salt, and I do think it needs a little bit. So if you're going low sodium, one or the other, either use salted butter or add a little salt. it does add to the flavor of these bars. Not necessary, still yummy, but this is one time I will tell you it is better with salt. And I am using the Wildlife plant-based butter again here. I need 3/4 of a cup of butter. And I'm just going to cut this into small chunks to add to my food processor. All right, and now I'm gonna pulse this until it makes like coarse crumbs. Probably should have got out the little stopper thingy to go with it, oh well. That looks good. And then to that, to help bind it together, I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of water. So I'm gonna add one at a time, and I'm actually gonna turn it on to blend until it comes together. So I'm turning it on, and then I'm gonna add a tablespoon at a time of water. Normally that's 2 for me. Let's see how it goes. Yep, that'll do it. So this is a very dry dough, but you can see that it holds together when you press on it. And I'm gonna move now over to roll this out. So I'm gonna move my last few things out of my way and get my surface ready to roll this out. All right, so I'm gonna bake this in a 9x13 pan. And first I'm going to use parchment paper. Not just because I love parchment paper, but it does make this much easier to transfer. So I'm gonna do 1 sheet of parchment paper, just a little bit bigger than my 9x13 pan. And I'm gonna put about half of my dough on my parchment paper. So where the traditional recipes that I was reading differ is that you would roll this out and make individual packets for each of the bars, which just seemed like really a long process and pretty tedious to me. So I'm like, well, let's just make it one big bar and cut it into chunks. That should be easier. So that's about right. And I'm gonna use actually 2 sheets of parchment paper so that it doesn't stick to my rolling pin. And I'm gonna roll out this chunk to about the size of my 9x13 pan. It's very forgiving. Too big, no problem. Not big enough, oh well, we can push more into the pan. It just makes it a little faster. Alternately, you could just put this in your pan and press it out, but I just thought it went a little bit faster when I did it this way. Just use my pan to verify. I am almost there. I just need a little more in this corner. All right, and this is what makes it so much easier to transfer. I'm just going to pick it up, put it in my pan, and then just pull the top sheet off. So you can see I got it a little bit bigger around here, not quite enough here, no problem. I'm just going to move this excess around to where I need it. All right, so just so that the bottom of my pan is completely covered. Here we go. And then I'm gonna spread jelly or jam over my crust. I happen to have a ton of raspberries this year and have a batch of seedless raspberry jam that I made, which is what I'm going to use. But whatever jam you like would work great. and about 3/4 of a cup. So I'm just gonna kind of pour this. 3/4 of a cup is most of my jar. Spread it out. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the other half of my crust. Another piece of parchment paper.
So Nutri-Grain makes a gluten-free one, they're just not very good.
Nutri-Grain does not.
There's the fake, other ones trying to fake it that are.
Yeah, there is a wonderful gluten-free brand that makes one. They're not my favorite. There are lots of their products I love. And like when I'm traveling and don't have time, I'll take them because they're pre-packaged and ready to go. But these are better. And if you didn't want to roll this out, you could just, drop it by like mounded teaspoonfuls over top of your jam. Just touch how wide that is. I thought I got it a little wide. I just do it this way because I just think it's faster and so much easier to just roll it out real quick like this as opposed to like pressing it into the pan. All right. And I'm just gonna lift off the parchment, bring my pan over. And this time I'm just gonna turn it over on top of and peel it off. Again, these are absolutely easy forgiving. Doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, so I'm fairly well covered up here. Looks like they're, okay, ready for the oven. So I'm going to bake these at 350 for about 45 minutes. See you in 45 minutes. Don't forget to subscribe. Haha, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Timer just went off. I'm ready to pull my cereal bars out of the oven. Beautiful. Now you could certainly let these cool and then cut them, but we all know I'm impatient. So another benefit to my parchment paper, it's right up onto my cutting board. Oh. Except now they're not pretty anymore. That's what I get for being impatient. They'll still taste good. I would recommend letting it cool in the pan probably about 10 minutes before you cut it so that this doesn't happen to you, but I'm impatient. So I'm just gonna cut it down the middle and then to about the size of a bar. When they are completely cooled, they do hold together enough that you can pick them up and eat them like a traditional cereal bar. Gluten-free, dairy-free cereal bars. Even better than the ones I remember. Flaky. A little extra time on the weekend, your mornings will go a lot easier. See you next time. Goodbye.